Sup, guys? We're back with another week of podcasting. We're not doing an intro this week because we're trying something new.
I guess you can consider this the intro.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of podcasts don't have like just a formal intro every time, and we thought maybe make it a little bit less formal. Welcome to the Unstoppable Force podcast. I am one of the two lovely hosts here. Name is Guy, and my compadre here.
I'm Rob.
If you've been listening to any of these episodes, you probably already knew that, but no one listens to anything. So,
Yeah.
we're really dying for views, honestly, guys. Get your friends, please, please. But today, we're gonna be talking about like loot boxes. I guess we kind of agreed,
Yeah. Microtransactions in gaming.
right? Because there was
Kinda.
some news, general news in
Mhm.
multiple different areas related to everything that's been happening with loot boxes, and especially the related to laws,
Yeah.
specifically around loot boxes. But yeah, I mean, they're passing laws now. They're at least like the U.S. government, like it's already been happening in Europe.
Right.
But
I know there's definitely hearings, at least in Europe. And in the US there's some senators that were pushing for investigation into like the Federal Trade Commission maybe, because it has to do with gambling. To push an investigation on microtransactions and loot boxes, and they actually specify pay to win in these games to look into those. So basically, things that are more gambling or really incentivize a lot more of the payment, which I kind of don't actually agree with the pay to win,
yeah, I don't.
because it's not gambling in the same
No.
sense as loot boxes are.
I mean, if I buy more Yu-Gi-Oh cards than you, I'm gonna be better.
Yeah, I'm gonna get Exodia or whatever.
Right, yeah, like if I have all these crazy rare cards and like really good cards that I mean, we got back into Yu-Gi-Oh in our senior year of high school, like
Right.
our whole friend group. And everyone was spending like real money on cards. And I remember, you make a deck online using like one of the like free, I guess, like app or like websites where you could play with
Yeah.
your friends and make decks. And then once you've like perfected it, you would like go to those individual card stores online and buy them. And some of these cards are like $80.
Yeah.
Like
The
really
rare ones.
expensive.
Yeah.
And that's just the price, It's
Yeah.
like if I want to play Hearthstone, I can't just go play Hearthstone. It's like, yeah, sure, you can go play it, but you're not going to be able to be a challenger level. If somebody who is a professional Hearthstone player made a new account, they wouldn't be able to easily become that same
Right.
level.
Well, that's still kind of random, right? If you get packs, it's like
It
random
is.
packs
I
of
mean, I feel
cards.
like in the fact that it is an actual like online game, um, the packs are sort of loot boxes, but I definitely don't feel as strongly about it when it's more like you get a physical object. I
Yeah.
personally actually have barely spent any money on Hearthstone, and I cannot imagine the amount of money you have to spend on that game
Yeah.
to stay relevant.
Right. So I guess so I would classify that more as loot box than pay to win. I feel like pay to win is like if you can pay to progress, like pay for like double XP in Call of Duty so you can get to the AK-47 before everybody else. Like that kind of is pay to win.
I mean, it's kind of is crazy though when you think about it how card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and then even like I remember there was that game where you would have like those little figures and you had to put your finger on the top of them and you would like launch them at the other person's figures and knock them over.
Oh yeah.
Like, and those were all marketed towards kids, and they're like these collectible things where you're buying like some sort of case that you
Yeah.
didn't know what was going to be in it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, do
Are
you
those
remember
like
those?
pop chips? You know those things?
Which ones?
Where like you get a stack of chips
Hmm.
and like you throw it down as hard as you can, and whatever ones flip over, like then you get those chips. That
I
was like
think I
another
remember
thing
that
that was
one.
in the vending in like those little machines.
Yeah.
But what
Dude,
were
do
you
you
gonna say?
remember the Star Wars? Remember that craze for those like Star Wars figures that were in those like triangular boxes and they'd be all the different characters and you would actually like play like chess, like almost like a game of it's not chess, but you would move them around and then they could like turn and like hit stuff, and you could even buy like AT-AT walkers and
Like a
um
physical game?
yeah, it was like physical. I wish I still had. I don't. Maybe I do. That was so much fun though. I forget what that was called. I remember like Target was filled to the brim with them because people just were buying them like crazy. Definitely one of like my most fun things actually getting. But I think loot boxes, they're not terrible.
Hmm.
It's just that when it's like, if you're buying cards, you go to the store and you're buying a specific pack because you're looking
Yeah.
for a card that's in that pack. They're
Yeah.
only gonna have like 20 packs. You can't
Yeah.
buy more than that. You can't, like, there's all these
Mhm.
limitations on you in the real world when you're buying physical objects, and there's scarcity and there's resale
Mhm.
value, and
Mhm.
there becomes these like sub economies of these collectors items that are
Right.
sold and traded between players who collect them. And like that's great. But then these video games like Hearthstone, and I think the big difference is that I can't trade a card with
R
you.
Right, or yeah, or
You know,
sell it
I can't
either.
resell a
Yeah.
card that I got. If I get an extra legendary, I turn it into dust,
Mhm.
and I can get like another card. But there's still there's no physical objects you get. There's no economy. There's
Mm.
no like any of that stuff that comes with real life, and there's
Mhm.
also no scarcity. You
Right.
can buy 10,000 packs
Yeah.
and sit there and open them for like 2 days straight if you
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah, I never get the one card.
And there's also like a theoretical chance that you won't get that one card.
Mm.
And it's also like what I said earlier with card games, once there's a physical
Mm.
copy out there, I can just buy it individually.
Right. Yeah, you can find it somehow. So I think that it would help, and I don't know if like how that market would go, because you obviously the developers and all these, they want to keep people buying the loot boxes. They don't want someone to buy it and then put it on a market. Like Steam has like the collectible cards. You can put them on the
Right.
market. They're always like you get like 3 cents or some crap like
Hmm.
that. Like if you were able to do that in these games, it would be like at least for like Hearthstone where it's like an actual card that would make sense. Then I think that would bring like a lot of it would make it better at least with like for gamers in a
Hmm.
sense, especially on those card game stuff. But I don't know about like if it's skins like Overwatch. Like, are you gonna really put the skin up for like money? Like, would like that mechanic be a thing?
I think that there's games that have tried to create sub
Mhm.
economies.
Doesn't
Like,
CS:GO?
yeah, CS:GO did, and
Hmm.
they still do. They have a market. They still have the Steam market, but that's kind of where I was gonna go. Actually, the first place I was gonna go was Diablo 3
Okay.
because they had the auction house
Yeah.
where if you got like loot in game, you can go into this like auction house and resell it for in game money.
Currency.
Yeah, and there ended up becoming like so many almost I don't want to say like scandals or like things, but like manipulations
Mm.
and bugs, and it's a program.
Yeah.
Like programs have so many exploits to them and glitches to them. In real life, if I hand you a legendary bow that can shoot like 6 shots, like I'm handing it to you
Yeah.
and you're getting it,
Hmm.
and it's not like, well, I'm handing it to you, it's going to duplicate,
Mm.
it there's just a lot more of a slippery kind of slope, I think, when it's in a game. And it's also like transactions are so quick. So it's not like I have to drive to somebody's house and
Yeah.
give it to them, or I don't have to have a tag sale in order
Okay.
to sell them, or
Okay.
meet up with somebody.
Okay.
I can just immediately sell it to anybody who it's almost like stocks where it's like you can sell it to anybody in the world that wants to buy it at that price, and it's instantly theirs and you instantly get the money.
Okay. So what's the problem with that?
So that's like, for example, I mean, in stocks, right? There's a reason why hedge funds exist. Hedge funds are just places where people take all of their like millionaires and huge companies will give money to these hedge funds to then use like ultra specific data science programming software that will trade stuff at 1/10 of a second to get like 1 cent off of a trade, but it's like you're buying like 10,000 of a stock and
Mhm.
then reselling it at 1 cent more, and it's like, oh well, we just made $1,000,
Mhm.
even though it only changed a cent. So when you can do things instantly, like the quicker you can do them, the more easily you can manipulate
Mhm.
the markets or like take advantage of the tiniest changes in markets.
Yeah.
And that's why hedge funds, like, they don't just disappear because they got unlucky. They can't
Right.
get unlucky.
Yeah.
They've spent billions of dollars making sure there's no way to get unlucky.
Okay.
And that's where the same thing that these, like, I think people in a game like Diablo 3 are gonna do. They're going to manipulate and optimize the markets based on the exploits that are left in it that can't be patched.
Mm.
And it's like, at least with like the stock market, there are running other parts of the economy through the hedge fund's natural, um, I guess, like, process of trying to make as much money. It's probably a little harmful, but it's also probably not a little harmful, and in each of its own
Right.
ways. So I don't know what that means exactly. Maybe it's just that obviously there's a lot more money going into
Yeah.
making sure the stock market is fair. So when you play the game right, you've played the game and you're
Mhm.
following the same rules as everyone else, so it's
Yeah.
fair. But I think in a lot of these games, they're just like it's a lot of manipulation.
Right. I guess you could kind of set some sort of the game developers can create a regulation inside of it
Hmm.
to make sure like it like holds like certain value or something. I mean, I guess obviously there's like demand and such, but maybe like you have to hold on to it for a certain amount of time, or like it was sold, or like it's like a single sell, like maybe you can only sell it once, and then once you buy it, then the item can't be sold again. Type of
I
thing.
guess, do you mean like you can't sell that item twice, or like does
Like
that mean
you
like
can
if you?
sell it you sell it, and then the person that gets it,
Okay, I get what you're
so
saying.
that they can't hold.
Well,
But
that's not. I feel like that's not. I mean, I think that
that would
that
deter like multiple buying of the same item to resell them.
well, I think like Steam is probably Steam and CS:GO are
Mm.
probably like the best example of what it would look like if a real like collection sub like economic
Yeah.
system of items and collectibles, that's like the most realistic depiction of it in gaming,
Yeah.
because there was skins that are worth 5 cents, and then there's skins that are worth like $2,
Hmm.
$5, $10, $50, $100,
Mm.
almost like currency.
Yeah.
And then once you had them, they would like fluctuate in value based on their rarity and their age
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Um, but then there was all this gambling that came out of it, and then you could also um, go to certain sites where you could actually exchange them for real money
Hmm.
by essentially like selling them, I guess, like to the site, and then the site would then sell them. I forget what it was
Yeah.
exactly. But you were able to exchange it for real money. And then that becomes almost like you're either are these like stocks now? Is that how the system almost
Mm.
works? Is it more um like collectibles?
Yeah.
Are they
Like.
like casino tokens? Because then everyone was using them for lotteries, games. There was like where you could bet on professional games and who you thought was going to
Yeah.
win, and ultimately like they were used as casino tokens
Yeah.
basically. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think that because it's unregulated compared to the stock market, it's being regulated by a small company that has its own monetary interests
Hmm.
at the forefront of their decision making.
Yeah.
They're fine with it being horrible and manipulative and exploitive if it means that they're making more money off of it.
Right.
Which is why we saw Valve do nothing about all of the gambling that they
Hmm.
knew for a fact was happening
Yeah.
for years. And it was like not only until the government was like, hey, you can't do this anymore, it's illegal. And they're like, okay, fine, we didn't mean to.
Mm.
Like, oh, we were just letting the people do things. We didn't even notice.
Mm.
Trying to push off the blame on them because you know when I was playing CS:GO,
Yeah.
the idea of spending money to get casino tokens to then use to gamble on professional games was the whole reason I actually spent money on CS:GO.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Literally was the entire reason was to gamble
Mm.
on professional games. So I use them as casino
Yeah.
tokens.
Yeah.
And it's like a random. It's like it's not even like I spend $10 and I get $10 of casino tokens. It's I spend $10 and I could get anywhere between 10 cents and $1,000 of casino tokens if I get like 2 knives miraculously out of those boxes or
Mm-hmm.
something. And that's insane.
Gotcha.
I think that's why these systems like immediately start to fall apart because they're digital, they're quick,
Mm.
transactions happen really quickly, trades happen really quickly, and it's unregulated. And the only person regulating it is a person who's has only like their interest is
Mm.
in making it not work
Or like to
as
make
long as it
money
makes
out of
them
it.
money. Yeah. Like they don't care if it hurts people if it
Mm.
makes them money. So they can't really regulate it themselves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like you probably can make an argument that the government and the way that they regulate the stock market probably is in the benefit of the rich.
Yeah, you could.
So I've still made a lot of money off the stock market, and I'm not rich. You just have to make smart decisions. So
Yeah.
it's like hedge funds make billions of dollars, but so can the little guy if he's smart and picks the right stock.
Right, and then a
So,
bunch of little guys becomes a hedge fund.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it works because there's no disadvantage to specific groups based
Mm.
off of the system and how it works.
Yeah.
The only people who lose money on stocks are people who make poor decisions and invest in a company that they thought would do well and didn't. Unless of course it's like insider trading or somebody like a CEO selling a bunch of its shares before like the company goes bankrupt or something and
Yeah.
like that stuff, but then they all go to jail for that. And
Mm.
or if they don't, it's because they just barely slid by, but people probably don't respect them very much anymore or think of them as good people.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's like the issue is that there's really no regulation other than the company that made the game.
Mm.
And that's where the issue comes in. So it's like I guess you could say that the government could regulate it instead of banning it.
Well, overall, like gambling, like the loot boxes.
Well, how the loot boxes are allowed to work.
Mm-hmm. Well, like if we're gonna consider gambling, like one way I would do is just basically make sure that there's uh like a warning or notice, or like maybe you make it like M, so only like if you're 18 you can buy it, unless you have a parent or like parental
Hmm.
like whatever acceptance, I don't know, whatever we call it. Because like that's kind of the main problem with this is that it's like, oh, we're like making games for kids that there's gambling aspects in it. They're losing money, and then when they tell their mom, "Oh, can I have like $10?" and then they could do it all over again, and they start whining, and then the
Hmm.
parents give in because it's their kid. They don't want them to cry or whatever.
And honestly, I feel so bad for kids of this generation too, because it's like when we grew up, even like when I was mentioning the Star Wars stuff or the Yu-Gi-Oh
Mm,
cards or like any of these cool collectible things that you buy in packs, like we still have them.
yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Yes. This
they're
stuff when
they're
the game
preserved.
dies. Yeah. When the game dies, that's it. Like
Right.
you can't trade them in or sell them to somebody that has like nostalgia boner or anything. Then the
Hmm.
company's not gonna give you your money back or none of that
No,
stuff.
I would
It's
imagine
lost.
the government being like, or sorry, a company being like, "Hey guys, we're closing down the servers. We just thought we would give all the money we earned off of microtransactions back because everything you've ever
Yeah.
spent money on is going to disappear
Like
tomorrow."
the closest thing they can do is like send you physical copies of the
I
cards or
actually,
something like that, or like
mhm.
digital printouts or some shit like that, and
I
trade
remember
those.
talking with Mike about this, and Mike's one of my friends online, and we talk about things like like
Mhm.
microtransactions and loot boxes all the time.
Yeah.
And I've always hated the fact that Hearthstone, the second you get bored of the game or the game, which it is right now, is dying, and less and less and less and less people play, the money that you invested is gone versus something like Yu-Gi-Oh! I remember actually saying like that they should have from the get go had like a tiered thing where like for every you know like at $10 if you spend $10 we'll send you this
Yeah.
or like at $50 of spent money then you go to tier
Mhm.
2 and we'll send you another gift or a
Mhm.
reward and then like you get physical things as you spend more money on the game as like a reward for helping the game
Mhm.
and to give you something that I mean like think about it if you got a figure for
Yeah.
spending $500 on Hearthstone
Mm.
how much would that figure be worth Probably $500, or at least like a couple $100.
Yeah.
Right? Because it means that only person who spent $500 will get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then collectors, because there's like also people who buy stuff just to collect it to then
Yeah.
save it and sell it later. They're not going to really buy those things because they're not going to see them as a collectible. They're just going to see them as a reward.
Yeah.
So it's like only the people that genuinely wanted to spend that much money would probably have these things. And then if anything, they may actually get those groups of people to be like, oh wow, this could be worth a ton of money
Right.
if I
Yeah.
buy it
It might
later.
incentivize more people to actually go for the higher,
So they
like
could make
putting
money
money.
off of it while also making everyone
Mm.
happier.
Yeah. I would just be fine with like giving copies of like the actual cards. Like if you bought the pack,
Mm-hmm.
like when you get a certain amount, like you bought a certain amount. Now you get
Yeah.
the cards that you bought. Like
Well,
then
that
you
could
get
be
like a
like one of the
copy.
rewards. So
Yeah.
it's like if you spend $100 in the game,
Mm-hmm.
we'll give you real version cards
Mm-hmm.
of like a Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll make
Yeah.
packs and
Yeah.
we'll give out 10 packs to you or something, or
I,
like,
I wonder if their reach would be greater or if less people would play it if they had like physical cards.
well, they wouldn't give you like enough physical cards
Mm.
to replace
The
the
game.
TCG. I mean the why do I say TCG? Because it's just trading card game. It's
Hmm.
a non-line card game, but I guess no one really calls it like an
No.
OCG. I guess an OCG.
Good.
Um, but like OCGs, they would give you maybe a deck
Yeah.
or like a
Like
couple decks. Like you
like
remember in Yu-Gi-Oh, you could buy
mhm.
those starting decks,
Yeah.
and it's like it's a good enough deck to play with,
Hmm.
and it's kind of a novelty if you bought
Yeah.
like you buy the Dark World one, and then your friend
Hmm.
buys the Mermaid
Yeah.
or Mermail one or whatever, and then you guys can play each other with the out of the back
I'm
or out of the
just
box decks.
I guess what I'm saying is just as like a business move, would they do better and get more of the people that are playing like Magic and stuff if they just went physical in addition to being digital? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Because there's people that are like, oh, it's a computer game, or I need a computer, or even on your phone, sure. But like, there's like the concept of playing a card game that's not like an actual card game is like a turn off to a lot of actual like
I think
card
it's
game players.
convenience is the pull of an
Mm.
of an online card game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, like I don't have to find a friend to play it.
Hmm.
I can just search through matchmaking and things like that.
True.
But then there's also like Yu-Gi-Oh! I can play online anytime I want, and there's like a ton of apps you can download online to play with people with all the cards unlocked and stuff. Um, but it's like if you play those, you know that you're getting everything for free and you don't really have it, and it's like you don't feel as the reward of
True.
actually owning it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if it's like existing on both ends, I think Magic is trying to do that actually with like they came out with an online game with like most of the cards in it.
Okay.
But a lot of the time, like Yu-Gi-Oh had like all of its video games, they would always make it definitely not all the cards that exist in real life. Probably mostly because of technical limitations actually.
Hmm.
But also because they don't want it to be the same experience as like a normal game or as
Yeah.
like the real games. It's like as long as the experience is different,
Yeah.
I think it's worth doing. But
Mm.
if the experience is the same, then you're actually cutting into your own market
Yeah.
and you're doing nothing
Okay.
actually. But I think it would be so cool, and I probably would have spent $100 on
Mm.
Hearthstone if, like, at $100 they were like, okay, you've spent a lot of money in this game, you really supported us. Pick one of 5 deck types,
Mm.
or like pick one of the like all of the different characters. Pick your favorite one,
Mm.
and we'll send you a in real life physical deck of
Yeah.
40 cards or whatever, like or 20 cards because it's 20 cards decks in Hearthstone, right? Am I
I think
crazy?
so.
No, maybe not. Well, who cares? I
Been a
haven't played in
while.
forever. Um,
So
like you could get one of them and then like not change it out or like
yeah.
whatever. Like it's a deck,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can maybe like do it with your friends and it's
Hmm.
novelty. But then it's like, and then it's a collector's item, and it's just cool. Like, oh, I've got a physical
Mm.
Hearthstone deck.
So can you do that with, let's say, Overwatch? Like, because those are all skins or
Well, you can.
emotes.
It doesn't have to be the thing that you bought. It could be like at $100, pick your favorite character, and we'll send you a figure of them,
Mm.
like
Okay.
an action
Yeah.
figure, like
Yeah.
on a stand or something, and like make it like tiers. So at like $500 or $1,000, like we'll give you things. things.
Mm.
Because ultimately, even if you like, I've spent, and honestly, I regret it, but at the same time, I still play League all the time, so I'm not upset about it. But I've probably spent like about $1,500 to
Mm.
$2,000 in my lifetime on League
Yeah.
over the course of like 9 years.
Mhm. This kind of reminds me of like if you as a kid going to like an arcade and playing games and buying more games, getting more tickets, and eventually you spent
Hmm.
basically enough to get like that reward. Kind of that's kind of what that reminds me of.
Kind of,
In like
yeah,
in that situation because you're like definitely for a fact if you spend X amount of money, you're gonna get that thing.
yeah.
So that's what it would turn into versus if you
It's
spend
like,
that much money, you're not necessarily gonna get the in-game stuff.
I think that's actually, if you think about it in that way, it's like if something's random, but then on top of the random, you have permanence,
Right.
right? So it's like, if, for example, in CS:GO, you open up loot boxes, but if you don't get a knife in, 50 loot boxes of opening, we'll give you a free knife. Well,
Mm,
like it'll increase, or like the chances of getting a knife will go up
mm,
for every loot box that you don't get a knife in.
yeah,
So it's like at least there's a chance that I'll get a knife eventually.
right.
Versus, oh, this person
Mm,
opened up 10 boxes and got 2 knives.
right.
And then this other person opened up 1,000 boxes and never once got a knife. Because if it's just pure randomization, there is a chance. So let's say
Mm,
it's a 1% chance to get a knife. That means in
mm,
100 boxes, you should get it.
right.
But that doesn't guarantee
Well,
it.
you could get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the chances of not getting it in 1,000 boxes would
Mm.
be, I mean, you can probably do the math on that, but it would be, I guess if you did it, I'm trying
You
to
said
I'm trying to
one
actually do the
percent.
math. If there's 1% chance that you'll get a knife in a loot box in a CS:GO
Mm,
loot box,
yeah,
and you buy 1,000 boxes
yeah.
and
That's
don't get a knife, what is the percent chance of that happening?
oh, no. Don't do that math. Okay.
That seems like a lot of work right now. You gotta pull out like the
Well,
pen and paper.
so doing it with like an increased percentage kind of comes back to like making them like there's a certain amount of them in the pool, so that like if there's like whatever 1,000 items, right? You pull
Mhm.
one out, now there's 999. So then the chance of getting one of those other items is higher, right? Like that item is higher.
Well, I was thinking of it more like oh, Siege. You
Okay.
know how in Siege you have that pack, and after every game,
Hmm.
you like it'll give you percent increase,
Yeah, yeah,
and then like every game you don't get a pack, it'll go up
yeah,
and up and up and up until the percentage is high enough, and then you get the pack, and then it goes back down to zero.
yeah.
That's kind of what I mean.
Okay.
So it's like theoretically in Siege's system, I could have a 99% chance of getting a pack and still not get a pack.
Yeah, that's what percent is. Yeah.
Right. So like, I mean, if it was only 5% or 10% or whatever, like you can't assume that if it's a 10% chance that you'll get it after buying or getting 10 games or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if you play 10 games, you'll get a pack because there is a deviation, a standard
Yeah.
deviation.
Yeah.
So if you have like 10 people do it, only a few of them are going to actually get it within 10
10.
packs.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a certain number of people that get it within one pack, or
Hmm.
2 games, one
Yeah.
game, 2 games, 3 games, and then
Yeah.
possibly 15, 16,
Yeah.
17, 18 games. Um, and if there's even the ability to potentially not get any knife in 1,000 boxes, that seems unfair.
Mm.
And I think that's where the problem with loot boxes lie, is that there will be like, if I were to buy loot boxes and I got a knife in CS:GO, I'd probably just be done.
Yeah, if you
It's
bought
like,
one and you got it, right?
right. And if I don't get it,
Mm.
I'll buy another. And then I
Mm.
don't get it, I'll get another. And I keep getting them. And the more crappy stuff I get, the more I want to buy, because I think to myself, oh, well, what are the chances that the
Mm.
next one won't have it?
Mhm.
I've already opened up 50
Yeah.
boxes, and I'm playing that numbers game of
Yeah.
like, oh, well, 1 in 100 boxes should have a knife in it. So if I keep buying them, eventually I'll get the knife. And if I get the knife, it'll make up for all the money I've now spent.
Mm. See, I think Overwatch kind of fixed their system because it used to be like duplicates.
Mhm.
You would get duplicates, and then I
You
think it
get, like,
turns into
money from
coin,
them,
right?
yeah.
So now they've gotten rid of it as at least a year. But basically that means the actual percent that you get like increases because the pool lessens each time of like, oh, you get this emote, now you're not going to get that emote, and then every
Mhm.
time you get more and more items, you get a higher chance of getting the other stuff. On top of that, if you get coin and from playing, you can unlock these things.
Yeah, I
So like you don't need to pay for loot box. So I think
right.
if you have the ability to play to get coin to unlock loot boxes,
Mhm.
or like you're playing and you get a loot box from playing, but also you can buy loot box, I think that is severely
And you
like
also get a loot
reduced.
box every time you level up.
Yeah,
Well, I guess they made it so that it's not every time anymore, and I think
uh,
it's, like, after a certain amount you
I
don't
think it's
it's still
every
every
time.
time? Or is it just that,
It's
like, it
every.
gets
I think it's
really
every time.
okay, no, I think what I'm thinking of is that it used to be that you wouldn't have to need as like, every every time you reset,
Mm.
you would be able to climb up levels
Oh,
faster and stuff.
oh,
No, it's Apex that I was thinking of that
okay.
doesn't give you boxes after a certain level.
Hmm.
Um,
And they also give you for winning if you play arcade 3 times. If
right.
you win 3 times in arcade, and then up to 3 times, three
So, like,
boxes
in
you can get.
Overwatch, you can choose not to spend any money on
Hmm.
that game, and professional players who've never spent a cent on the game probably still have almost every single skin
Right.
because they're just going to be, like, level 3,000,
Mm,
4,000, 5,000. I mean, my friend was Grandmaster
mm,
in Overwatch, and he was, like, level 3 or is it 300, am I thinking maybe, that or 3,000 or whatever? It doesn't matter. The point is that he had every skin he ever wanted, and he had, like, another 50,000 in gold, and he never spent a single cent on the game
yeah.
because the game gave you so many ways to not
Hmm.
have to spend money on
Right.
loot boxes.
So
But I've no problem with Overwatch's loot box system, and I
right.
don't think anybody ever did.
No. And it's like the bad actors that make us like just hate them so much.
Right.
So that like
Call of Duty is the fucking
right.
worst. Like, the king of terrible
I know
monetization.
you were saying we were
God.
talking earlier about like there's duplicates, and then if you spend enough then there's no duplicates,
Yeah, so
and
they
then
have, like, different box types
yeah.
where, like, if you spend enough money on their regular box that has duplicates in it, then, like, you can get a certain type of box that won't have a duplicate in it.
Oh, so it's like reducing the percent chance, like you said. After you buy so many, then it reduces, and it increases your chance of getting
Yeah, I
your other
guess it's like
items.
if you have a
Technically,
non-duplicate box, then
you,
essentially
you have a higher chance of getting the thing
yeah,
something you don't have.
right. So every time you get something, you can't get it again, and that does actually work. I mean, the only problem with non-duplicate systems, and the reason why companies like Call of Duty refuse to use them, is that that's like there's a cap, right?
Mm,
So they want to make money off of the whales,
mm,
people who are going to shell out $10,000.
yeah.
I believe the statistics, or if I remember for mobile games, was like only about 9% of people who play a free to play game will actually spend money on it, which is a really small amount of people.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's like the type of person who's going to spend a little bit, maybe get a couple items, but most of the money that these companies make off these monetization systems come from the very few people that either are bankrupting themselves
Mm,
or are just wealthy enough to
mm-hmm.
spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a single um Candy Crush game,
Yeah.
buying like lives and
Yeah.
power ups and stuff. Um, they're not really going for like the mainstream person. They're trying to cater to that one person. And if there's duplicates, then you can find somebody to spend $10,000 in a game.
Mm,
But if there's not duplicates, then there's actually a cap. Once you've spent a certain amount of money,
mm.
you will own everything in the game.
Right. Unless they expand it quick enough or have enough things, because like Overwatch, I don't know, I'd come back to Overwatch, but they'll keep coming out with more skins and emotes or whatever, or a new character that has all of that stuff that they can be unlocked.
Yeah.
So like if Overwatch actually came out with more characters and more things, then they would like you would almost need to buy loot boxes because of how many items that they would have in there. But since
Mhm.
there's like such a low enough that you can reach that point before the next like character comes out,
Yeah,
you're
like
fine.
like my friend did,
Yeah.
who at that point he had owned every skin he wanted,
Mhm.
didn't really care anymore, and just got duplicates, sold, did
Yeah.
whatever, and just saved up money because there's
Right.
nothing he wanted.
So like if like Candy Crush, well, me seeing the thing is Candy Crush has, I don't know if they have like a set amount of levels, whatever, to buy to get lives, but like Call of Duty, they don't make many more skins ever. They get, here's like a
No,
DLC
it's
with some whatever bullshit, but
yeah.
like yeah, they have a cap way more so
Mhm.
than the games that went more games as a service that comes out with new characters, with new skins like Apex. Every time they come out with a new character, and then there's new skins and banners and yada yada.
Honestly though, like Call of Duty takes it to the next level though, even further, and puts pay to win shit
Uh,
in their
in the boxes,
insanely difficult to get boxes. Like because of the duplicates. And this is the even more fucked up thing about the way that Call of Duty's boxes
mm,
work too, is that so every gun in the game has its own skins, right?
yeah,
And if you get a skin, you don't just get the skin, you get the skin for that gun,
yeah,
right? But if there's like a tiger skin,
yeah,
right? The just general tiger skin that a
mm,
ton of these like shooters have,
yeah,
if you got it on the M16,
yeah.
you don't have that same skin that's on all the other guns in the game on any of those other guns.
So doesn't Siege do that?
Siege sort of does that. No, actually doesn't.
Each time, yeah, if you get for
Well,
UMP,
there's
that's all you get
certain.
it for that gun. So any operator that has that gun can use that skin on that gun. But then if it's a no other gun can have that skin.
So I think that the difference
I know, like
with Siege is that there are universal skins that you can buy.
yes,
So there is an option to buy universal skins. Then there's also skins to specific guns,
yes,
but those guns are, like you said, on multiple different characters, so you
mhm,
still get to use them not just on one character. So there's more choice.
yeah,
And also that game gives you like a ton of
alright.
free skins. I got a bunch of free skins from like a bunch of different
Different
things.
events and stuff.
And then there's also the fact that you can buy every skin in that like game basically, except for a few with in-game currency that you earn
It takes so
from
long.
playing. It does, but if you're like a diamond level player playing games like if I played League as much as or if I played Siege as much
Siege,
as I
yeah,
played League, then I wouldn't have had to spend as much money as I did.
yeah,
Um, so I think it's about giving another option. It's like sure you can have the loot boxes, but you have to give some other way for us to have knowledge of what we're buying or what we're
mm,
getting ourselves into. Like Overwatch does have the option to use the gold that you've earned
mm,
by getting duplicates to buy skins that you'd like
yeah,
instead of being subjected to randomness.
hmm,
But if you're only subjected to randomness, that's when it's exploitive
mm,
and kind of destructive.
right,
And like in the case of Call of Duty, they designed their entire system to be as destructive as imaginable and
mm,
as greedy as imaginable, more
yeah,
than any other company ever in gaming. I can't even like you guys think Battlefront 2 is bad. Like
mm,
no. Play
yeah,
Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Read the articles, look at the system. They sell pay to win shit
mm,
behind loot boxes that you have to spend $10 just to even get like one non-duplicate box. Like it's
oh
insane.
yeah.
It's insane.
I will say that there's I guess a slightly bright side to this is that um there's been enough outrage and like gamers are loud when
Mhm,
something's not good and the internet is loud when they're getting shafted, especially back even with like Battlefront, and
mhm,
then now with this, like it's just so bad that like I wouldn't say like there's boycotts of it, but it's just like there's backlash, and
mhm,
definitely it kind of, in my opinion, this happens because like I've mentioned this on a previous episode that we've come to a point where this $60 game meets the games as a service,
right.
where we're in a sort of transition, and the big dogs want to like use that same format, but they didn't know how to do it necessarily. They were used to the old way, but they knew they
Yeah,
could make money.
they wanted the safety because it's
Yes, yeah,
safety.
yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I get beforehand when you sold a game, you got all of the money of a
Mhm.
game within the first like 3 months
Yeah.
of it coming out. But nowadays, with the games as a service, you're not
Mhm.
supposed to get all the money in those first 3 months. You're supposed to get the money constantly based off of concurrent players.
Right,
So before it was total sales determined how well a game did,
right,
but nowadays it's concurrent players
right.
that determines.
So they were trying to do that, hold on to that while latch on to like the games as a service
Mhm.
money making business. And in addition to that, we have Twitch, like not just Twitch, like streaming games where
Mhm.
people will know on day one if they should buy that game. It's not like, oh, we're pre-ordering it and we're just guessing. We have faith in these developers. Now we can actually watch it. So these like day one sales that were gonna happen, we'll know. We can just watch our favorite streamer play it and be like, nah, this is not like what I want to. And then the
Mhm.
sales will just drop off because the game's actually not good.
So the one thing, and this is why Call of Duty Black Ops once again takes the crown as the most disgusting, most putrid, horrible monetization and most manipulative and just terrible monetization system of any game of all time. Is that when it came out, guess what it didn't have?
What?
Loot boxes. Didn't have anything
Yeah.
at all in it. It had
I think I
nothing.
remember that.
And
Yeah.
inch by
And they were proud
inch,
of it too.
inch by inch, they added one thing at a time. First, oh, well, as you play, you'll go up in tiers and you'll get stuff as you go up. Oh, you can spend money to go up quicker if
Yeah,
you're
yeah, I remember
you don't want to do it. Oh, now we're adding loot boxes. Oh, now we're adding, special items in those boxes like new guns that you can't get anywhere else and a hammer that has shotgun shells in it. Um, and they continue to add and
it.
add and add and bolster it. And the thing is that people stop making it into big news. It's no longer
Mm,
big news when the game's been out for 6 months to a
right.
year and it's just like, oh, like, oh, they're added as an update, and it's like some people talk
Mm,
about it, and you yeah, we both
mm,
watch
all right.
people on YouTube talk about this stuff, or at least
Yeah.
I do, and they bitch and moan about it, but they only got like 100,000 views per video,
Yeah.
and it's just like these games, and also too the people who play it, when you inch by inch give something more and you bolster system more, and it's kind of like when you take somebody's like desk and you move it in every time they go to the bathroom, you move it like half an inch or an
Yeah.
inch, and it's like by the end of the day, it's like halfway into the hall, into the walkway, and you're like,
Yeah.
where? When did my desk move? You
Mm,
don't even notice it's happening, and they played it really smart in
yeah.
terms of like making as much money as they could, Activision, but they're actually disgusting.
And it's still like now that's like the current status is all this
Oh yeah,
boxes
it's not
stuff.
getting any better. It's getting worse. I think
Wow.
that there's even like some more major news like right now. There was the recent news about the guns being behind pay to win.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there was even more news around Activision. And then like also all the hearings going on and all these
Yeah.
all these countries starting to ban it. And I think part of it too is that they realize it's the end
Yeah.
of loot boxes, and they're just like, well, let's milk this thing as hard as we possibly can on the last game of the
Okay.
loot box generation, loot
Yeah.
box era.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they're going
Maybe.
so hard,
Maybe.
because it's just
'Cause it's not gonna
insane.
happen again.
They're really, I mean, they're like a lot of it's stress testing. When you hear these companies and they're going to release some skin for $20, $25, $30, they're trying to see what people are willing to spend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they find that we're willing to spend a ton on trash, they're going to up their prices. They're going to
Or
try to get as much as they
mm,
can.
or at a minimum keep it in the like exorbitant prices.
Yeah. I mean, like, a skin should not be $20 in a game. Like, an entire uh, uh,
I'm,
an entire
mm,
expansion of WoW that could give you over 100 hours of gameplay if you're a WoW player is $40. $40. It's it. And if I play
Aren't
even
DLCs like $20?
yeah, DLCs are well, it depends. Skyrim's DLCs usually were like $40 each because they were like very big and they added over 100 hours
Yeah,
of
I'm just thinking
gameplay.
like Call of Duty map packs and stuff like
Map
that.
packs were fucking garbage too, though, and they
Oh,
split the player base because anybody who
yeah.
didn't buy maps can't play them.
Well, that's why this new Call of Duty not gonna have that.
Oh,
But
oh, that's the other thing about this most recent Call of Duty. They had a season pass before the game came out. And the way that their season pass worked was that if you either had to buy it and get all of the map packs, or you had to not buy it and get none of them. You couldn't
do
buy the
either.
individual map packs. So it was a buy all of them or buy none of them. And they gambled on it and they said we may lose the casual audience who will not buy individual map packs, but the people who know that they're going to be playing it for the next year, who always play Call of Duties for the next year, will still buy it and will make more money because now we're getting them to buy all of them instead of just the first couple.
Yeah, I can only sort of defend that in the sense that like if I had bought like the packs, like if I bought like a season pass and then like you bought like one or two maps, then it's like splitting the base, so it's like buy the whole pack anyway. So if I'm buying any of them,
Well, it could have been,
you
maybe
know,
you're right because in Call of Duty World at War, uh, or sorry, I always say World at War, Call of Duty World War II,
yeah.
the more recent one.
Hmm.
In that game, the map packs were actually notorious for having nobody playing on them. And I remember there was even a Reddit post where somebody on the Call of Duty Reddit, I guess, page or subreddit, um, basically said that they were unable to find games on a specific map in Call of Duty when they were queuing for that specific map pack map.
Wow.
And somebody on the development team or in
Mm.
Activision responded saying that essentially that there was not enough players playing on that map for them to for the matchmaking to find a game quickly.
That's insane.
So they may have been like, okay, well, this a la carte system isn't working.
Yeah.
So if we get like, maybe if we lose 50% of the people who would have bought map packs individually will get more money from the other percentage that still buys them, and all of those people will play all of the maps and be able to be matchmaked into them. But it's the dumbest thing in the world. You should just make all the maps free because you wouldn't be splitting the player base at all.
Yeah.
And just because my friend who plays more than me buys a map pack and I don't, doesn't mean that we can just no longer play together ever again. That's the dumbest thing in the world. And that's what happened even in the old ones.
I mean, well, like Modern Warfare 2, like if you had the packs, you just couldn't select a certain mode, I think, or like you just wouldn't load,
yeah, it would just tell you that somebody in the party didn't have the map,
and they
and
just
then
wouldn't
you
play it.
couldn't search.
Yeah, well, it
But
depends on what you. Yeah, if you search because you went by like package,
mhm.
basically.
I mean, there's even like just to show the exact opposite of this. That's just way cooler. There's another system that you could do, which is like the way that one of the this. It's not really an indie game, but it's a smaller game. It's a real time strategy. It's called Stellaris. In their game, if you buy an expansion, then if you start and host the game, everybody else in the game gets that expansion, even if they didn't buy it.
That's what Borderlands needs to do.
Because it's like you're making money already, guys. You can sacrifice a small percentage of the amount of money that you're making for your consumers' happiness and enjoyment playing the game.
Yeah.
Like, why is the enjoyment of the game so much less valued than the amount of money you're making? Because eventually you're going to crumble. And Activision feels like it's crumbling right now. Blizzard has no good games anymore. They're all kind of these like
coming out with Overwatch 2 for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't even understand that.
Diablo 3 failed. Overwatch did well and then like didn't update itself at all really and just added maps and characters and that's it.
They had like a couple new game modes. But
I mean Hearthstone is dead. And none of their games are being supported anymore. The only thing is like WoW because I don't know. I guess the WoW proven itself that it can't be
I
replaced, so
mean, I
might as
know
well
a
just keep
recent
updating it.
their recent expansion was kind of disappointing as far as as their standards go. That's what I've heard. I haven't played it.
And then they're coming out with like mobile versions of Diablo 3, the game that already
Mm.
failed.
Mm.
Um, Obviously these games didn't fail though, because you can't say that they failed when Diablo 3 is like one of the top 10 or top
Yeah,
25
and then like
highest sold
they
games of all
bring it to
time.
Switch, and then everybody's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get Switch for this shit
And
or
it was a
whatever."
good game at the end, but they definitely they don't support their games like they used to, and they don't have any major games coming out, and at least this year. Um, I don't know what they have slated for the next couple of years, but it seems like they're drying up, and the acquisition of Blizzard by Activision, you can tell that their games are more about making money than moving on than beforehand, where
It,
they would support like StarCraft
okay.
One for like 10 years.
Isn't Destiny 2 under there or no? That's
No,
okay. 'Cause I
they
know isn't they
they
around the
they
launch?
separated actually. I think they're
Okay.
going free to play,
Yeah, I know.
and I think that's because Bungie is not being told what to do
Uh,
by Activision anymore.
right, right.
So they're like, we had a way different idea
Approach. Yeah.
of what we wanted to do with this. Because I think developers, I mean, I think when you make something, right? If you're an artist and you make something, you have to like the thing you made. Like
Eh,
the whole purpose
mm.
of making it and having pride in making it is you have to like it.
Right, and there's also like a vision that you have that um is not like fully realized when somebody else changes anything. But I
Right.
think that it would just make it could make it like so much worse, even if the tiniest thing is changed.
Because like you didn't design it with those things in mind, and then somebody comes in, 80% of the way in and goes, okay, this is what we want for your monetary systems. And then, the people behind Battlefront 2, DICE, they're like, that's what you guys want us to do?
Yeah,
Like, we didn't design anything we've made up to this point around the fact that we are going to be basing the entire economy of the game around, and progression of the game around boxes.
yeah.
Like, that does not sound like it's going to work. And then they go, well, it's going to make us more money, so do it. And we are also the ones who pay you your paycheck, so
Mm.
do it. Um, and I'm not saying that developers aren't at fault to some extent, because you can look at like BioWare
Mm.
and Anthem, and that was very much a developer problem.
Mm.
Um, but I think that developers, they want to love their own games, whereas publishers are like, we don't care if the game sucks or is great. We just care if it makes money.
Yeah.
So if we can make it so that the players like it just enough to not quit it, but also just enough to spend money on it, that's where we want. We want a sweet spot where you don't like the game, but you're still playing it and spending money on it.
Mm.
Like that's it. Like we're pushing you as far as we can with the monetization systems we're going to use, just to see what percentage of you guys are willing to
I
tolerate it.
mean that happened. Yeah, I think that's also the new like state of gaming where like the game's not fully done and we're starting to play it, and then later we're gonna get the
Yeah.
updates. That's what they're trying. They're trying to see what little amount of game they're gonna make to
hmm
let people buy it or be in beta or buy the beta version. What little of a game can we sell to you? They're trying that too.
And the only reason why that even exists is because of fucking early access games doing so well. And the thing is that everybody's been burned by early access games, and yet we still go and buy them. And I've gotten to the point myself personally where if I see it's early access, I will immediately be significantly less likely to buy the game. I'm
Mm.
going to be very picky about my early access games. Like I am very
Yeah.
picky at this point. I've spent too much money on early access games that have gone essentially
Mm.
nowhere. The only one I remember recently buying is like Risk of Rain 2, but that's also I've already gotten like I don't know, like 60, 70, 80 hours out of that game. And
Yeah.
like I don't care at this point. Like I've already gotten my full enjoyment out of the game. They could literally never update it again and I wouldn't be upset because
Yeah.
I got that much game time out of it.
Yeah, I definitely noticed in like the recent years of an increase in like early access or beta or on Steam. Whenever you're on Steam, you just see it everywhere now. I'm like, I'm paying for this. I remember like when it would be free because they want you to actually see if this is good or not. But now it's just like, here you go, like buy this game so that we can have money. It's sort of like the safety net thing where like they want it to be in early access, guarantee the money in right now so that
Mhm.
they can finish the game like comfortably.
But that's how you end up with like PUBG and H1Z1,
Yeah, it
where
just doesn't get finished
yeah,
basically.
I mean, like if you look at PUBG, you can tell they're playing the minimum investment game,
Mm,
where they're like, what is the minimum we can spend updating this game and adding content to it without losing players? And they exploded so hard on mobile that they didn't even care that Fortnite shit all over them on PC.
yeah.
They were just like, okay, well, whatever. We still have 400 million users playing in China right now.
Mm,
So have fun, guys. Play whatever games you want. We're going to go make our bank over there. Um, and it's like as long as these companies make money off these games, they don't really they almost want to keep it like at
mm,
that lowest. It's almost like Minecraft. Since Minecraft got purchased by Microsoft, you can tell they're still only doing like one update every 6 months,
yeah.
and it's not going to be a comprehensive or big or changing update. And they probably have a roadmap that probably goes 10 years, 20 years, and they're like, what is the slowest we can just update this thing and add as little content so that our investment is as the smallest it can be, with our income and our profit being the
Mm,
highest it can be.
yeah.
It's like that works for making money, but it doesn't work for, making your player base happy and growing it. Minecraft works because it's so niche, I think, and it is so
Mm,
fun actually to be, because it's so creative and sandbox, and it's kind of like a make your own fun kind of game, which is
yeah.
why um, Sea of Thieves is
Yeah.
still very successful within its niche community. Um, but it's a terrible practice in my opinion, because it just leads to a bunch of shitty games.
Well, I think like you said, like if gamers are like just happy enough, and like some people can point it out, but if everybody's like, "Oh, this is good," then nobody really cares. Like, sure, there can be more potential, but like most games could be better. No like perfect game. So like you can, I in a sense accuse a bunch of developers or publishers from like either stopping progress or slowing it just because it like in your opinion it's not as finished. But I think if they do have a roadmap and it's that's kind of like a safety net too, where if like the fan base or whatever gets so mad that we're not updating enough, if
Hmm.
they really are stretching it out, that means they'll be able to pull in those updates earlier,
Yeah.
which it doesn't like happen actually that much.
I also think a lot of it's a status quo, right? So I think Minecraft is a bad example of a player base being upset about the slow updating.
Mm,
And the reason isn't because they don't like the fact that it's updating slowly, but it's more that the game was originally developed by one guy, and then as the team expanded, it only went to like a couple guys, and then even when it was like sold to Minecraft, or sorry, to
Microsoft.
Microsoft, it was like only still 15, 20 people. And then when Microsoft owns it, they maybe added some marketing people. They probably added some like of the non-development team and maybe a few people on the development team, but they're keeping it small.
Yeah,
And so updates come out about as fast as they've ever come out. But you'd
yeah.
think that when the game starts making 100, 1,000 times as much as it was before, and there's now over uh, like thousands of different physical memorabilia and collectors items and stuff that they're selling, whether it be
Mm.
shirts or figures or
Swords or whatever
foam
foam swords.
swords,
Yeah,
and they're also now like the number one selling game like of all time or something, like maybe just behind Tetris, or I think they might have overpassed Tetris
I think they
recently.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, and they are now owned by a company that's making billions and billions and billions of dollars, instead of it just being a small independent developer. Like, the whole point of all of those things is that some of all of that extra money that they're earning should be passed on to the consumer.
Mm.
Just because you're making more money doesn't mean that you can just I feel like there's an obligation that companies should have to improve a service if the service starts making them a ton of money, or if the game starts making them a ton of money.
Well, they would if they really like it. They would if I think it. either brings more people in or keeps them happy, or if they keep it the same and people are happy enough.
Mhm.
Because but they also put that money into other places where we can get a new Xbox that's like 10 times as good, or other places where we're gonna get like some crazy augmented reality that Microsoft's coming out with, like putting it into this game that made the most all this money, but people are used to this being like this and not updating that much. So what? It's not gonna lose them all that money. They're gonna
Mhm.
put it into all these other ventures that they're going
I'm
into.
just saying, like, if a community of people, of gamers, support you as a company and play your game and buy things and support it because they love it, like, I think that you should improve
Hmm.
the updating of a game. And
Right.
like, you should be like, oh, hey,
Like.
we initially only had a plan assuming that we only made like
Mm,
$10,000 a month. Let's say it's like an indie game and it's
yeah.
like a Cuphead, right?
Yeah.
Cuphead only expected to make $1 million, but then when it came out it made
Mm.
$20 million. Does that mean that all 19 extra $1 million should just go into the business end and go into the pockets of executives, and they get these big ass bonuses that year? So these few people that have nothing to do with making a game get all the extra money that was made off of a game doing way better than they expected? No, it should be being put partly. I
Mhm.
mean, like, sure, maybe they get a little bit extra bonus,
Mm.
but a portion of it should be put back
Mhm.
into the development of the game that made 19 times or 20 times as much as they expected it
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I
But
don't
it's not.
disagree. I don't disagree.
And
They
it's
would
so
do it.
annoying.
They would do it if, obviously, if it's in their best interest. How it is.
I think it's becoming more and more and more in the best interests of companies to put their consumers at the forefront of their
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
Before it was all money because it's like it didn't really matter as much.
Yeah.
And I think now, like, how much we love a company on an emotional level is very dependent on what we spend.
And how consumer friendly they are.
Yeah, and I think
Absolutely.
that's like a huge bonus right now in
Mhm.
this market, but it's not big enough yet. And I think there's still
Mhm.
enough games shitting all over their
Yeah.
player bases, and people aren't reacting harshly
I
enough.
think
Like,
it's the big ones are shitting. I
yeah,
think
it's
that's
the
the
ones that
thing.
can just barely get
They're
away with it.
scared too. That's why, because they're like they feel threatened basically by
Mhm.
like like buy Fortnite, um, and buy Apex and all this stuff. Like,
And also, like, indie games are making more money than ever, and I think
yeah,
that we're gonna see AAA like crumble and crumble
yes,
and
that's why
crumble.
I'm saying they're threatened. They
Mhm.
think that, they know what's gonna happen. It's like very few of them who can stay alive. Like,
I
I would
mean,
say like Rockstar or something like that.
but like, look at Ubisoft. Ubisoft has been so chill.
There was like
Like,
a time where they weren't.
yeah, but I mean, Siege, a lot of people had problems with Siege when it came out.
Mm,
They felt like it was devoid of content, and they kept at that game, and they kept updating it. They kept improving it, and I guess you could go back to the argument of like, is it a games as a service kind of situation then, where it's like they are coming out with this early access version of a game and then improving it, kinda. Um, but like, they're still going at it. They're still supporting For Honor. They're still supporting all these other games. There's no loot
mm,
boxes in any of them. Their Siege, like, right out the bat, like, had a pretty good system where you could just play the game and earn stuff
yeah.
right off the bat. They never once even tried to push the limits. They were like, hey, let's be cool about this. And they probably made, I mean, Fortnite. Fortnite did not have loot boxes. Fortnite didn't have anything manipulative at all in it. It's just like, I mean, play our game, earn money, and you can get stuff. And if you spend real money, you can also get stuff. I guess it wasn't as much of an earning. I think there's like a cap on it. Like, you can unlock certain things. You had to play like a ton. And then
Uh,
they came out with the battle pass, and there's like the free battle pass, and then the non-free battle
yeah.
pass, and whatever. But I think that we're going to see it improve. It's always been a very big frustration of mine that there's no passion sometimes behind certain games, and like, you earn all this money off of a game, none of it goes back into development, and you just know that greedy people who don't give the shittiest little bit about their game or their
Mm,
player base, that's where all the money's going. Because if it was going anywhere else to anyone else, they would be putting it back into somewhat.
yeah. Yeah.
But it's also because of publicly traded companies too. publicly traded companies are specifically incentivized to maximize profits because it makes them look really good to investors,
Shareholders.
stockholders,
Yeah.
and it's actually you are legally obligated as a business, a publicly owned business, to do everything within your power to make the company as much money as possible. Because
It's
if you
insane.
don't, then it's technically, I guess you're like making it so that stockholders. I guess the idea is like you can't purposely bomb a company because you want to like control the markets or manipulate the markets, which makes
Makes
sense,
sense. But like, look what it does.
right?
So
So I don't think video game. I think a video game company that becomes publicly traded is a video game company that's already sold its soul
yeah.
to money.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I think we should definitely wrap it up.
It sounds like a good time.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys think. I think we both almost defended and went against loot boxes in different
It's more
forms.
like what it was done well and what's not done well,
Yeah.
and what we're gonna see possibly in the future,
Mhm.
or like why you should really focus on what games that you're like gonna be buying and like who to support.
Yeah, we should definitely be more picky.
Mm,
And also, like, where is your line too? Like, where everyone has a different line, I think, of acceptability of a system, of a monetization system, and like what version of a loot box is acceptable and what's not. And
yeah,
like, should we integrate physical stuff into our digital purchases? I think we should, because I
yeah,
hate the idea of never getting anything I buy ever again because everything's digital.
yeah.
Like, that
I think it
sucks.
would also make them more money. It would get more people to buy more things. I think.
Apparently, little quick fun fact before we close out the podcast.
Yeah,
Um, there's still a significantly higher chance that you'll purchase something if you can physically interact with it
yeah,
versus purchasing it online.
yeah.
There's actual studies that have said like there's like over a 50% higher chance or something that somebody will purchase something if they can physically interact with it. So stores will not die. Amazon will not kill the brick and mortar ever.
Yeah, but like Amazon, you're still buying a physical thing.
Well, yeah, but I get what I'm saying. Like, no matter what it is, if you can physically interact with it, you will want to buy it more.
Okay,
And I'm
gotcha.
saying like almost an example of this is the idea of like if you're in a purchasing situation where you're like, should I buy this? Should I not? Having it physically in
Mm,
front of you will improve that chance. And I'm
yeah.
saying I think the same principles behind that would be applied
Okay.
towards purchasing a digital object versus a physical object.
Yes, I agree.
But yeah, that about wraps it up.
As always, thank you for listening and following.
Check us out every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are available.
You can find us on Instagram at Unstoppable Force Podcast and Twitter at UForcePod for news and updates.
We'll see you guys next week. And
And
until
until then,
then, stay
stay
unstoppable.
unstoppable.